Hello and welcome. Those of you who would have watched my Gosport and Fareham video in the A to Z of National Bus Company series would have seen a picture of this bus pop up halfway through the video. Now, I didn't say anything about it at the time because I did wonder if it would make a good subject for a standalone video, and I decided to have a go at it, and here it is. This is actually a very rare bus, one of only two built. It's an Acce Cougar and was originally envisaged to be competition to the Dennis Dart. It was bodied with Wadham Stringer bodywork, which was locally produced to Provincial at nearby Waterlooville in Hampshire. This bodywork being fitted also to Dennis Darts. So how did the story of the Acce Cougar start? Well, let's step aboard our YouTube time machine and I will show you. To tell the story of Acce, which stands for Alternative Chassis Engineering, we must go back to the late 60s and early 70s, to the time of the Seddon pennine. Now, the Seddon pennine was more than one bus. It was a range of vehicles. There was the Seddon pennine 4 and 6, which were front engine chassis, which were fitted with Perkins engines. There was the Seddon pennine 5, which was a rear engine chassis with a Perkins engine. And then there was the Seddon pennine RU, which was a rear engine chassis with a Gardner engine. And then there was a Seddon pennine 7, which was a mid-engine chassis with a Gardner engine. So as you can see, it was all rather confusing. Basically, you could have a Seddon pennine with several different engine options and several different chassis layouts. And just to confuse things even more, Pennine was also the name of the coach building division of Seddon. Now, it might be worth doing a completely separate video on Seddon and the Pennine, and if you would like to see that video, please comment down below and let me know. Now, while the Seddon Pennine certainly wasn't the most successful bus, there were still 1,269 of them built over various incantations, but it did have its problems. And worryingly, these included issues with the steering and the gearing, as well as the brakes, the major bits that most buses need to operate safely. In fact, there was a saying that goes, if it's a Seddon, it's a deaden. But that's maybe a little bit unfair because the Seddon Pennine, especially the RU, certainly wasn't unpopular with everybody. Darlington Transport absolutely loved them. Late on in the production of the RU, they bought 8 11-metre versions. And indeed they liked them so much they tried to convince Seddon to build some more. However, by that time production of the Seddon Pennine RU had finished and Seddon politely refused. And this is where Ward Motors enters the story. Ward Brothers of Lepton near Huddersfield ran a medium-sized coach company, operating a mixed range of services including continental holidays. Wards were also big fans of the Seddon Pennine, but the Seddon Pennine 7. Ward Brothers purchased a fair few of these coaches and found them to be really good motors, being foolproof to service and very robust in construction. So when Seddon announced the end of PSV production, Ward Brothers felt there was no other chassis that could come close to the Pennine that they were using. And unusually, they decided to clone the design and build their own vehicle. This became the Ward C11 640 Dalesman, and the C11 is for the 11-metre coach, and the 640 is referring to the 640 engine. And the first one was built in 1981 in their own workshops, utilising a refurbished Leyland Leopard chassis with Perkins engine and a ZF 680 6-speed manual gearbox. The brakes, steering, engine, gearbox and rear axle were almost like a carbon copy from the Seddon Pennine itself. This prototype chassis was sent to Plaxton in Scarborough to receive its new Supreme bodywork. And the story goes that the staff at Plaxton were so impressed by the build quality that one of the managers of Plaxton offered to drive the coach back personally on its long delivery run to Ward Brothers. In fact, it seemed that everyone that came into contact with the coach gave it good reviews and raved about it. And this encouraged the Ward family to take the plunge and offer the vehicle for general sale. Now, the coach certainly wasn't a roaring success, but those who bought them found they were absolutely brilliant, reliable and bulletproof. However, the design and the construction was plagued by long delivery times and high costs compared to other makes of the time. So at one of these bus and coach management meetings that tends to pop up every so often, Keith and David Ward found themselves speaking to the engineering and transport managers of Darlington Borough Transport, who was telling them about their woes of being unable to find a bus as reliable and good as the Seddon Pennine RU. And there and then, Keith Ward decided that he would be able to build Darlington their buses that they wanted. And again, this design cloned an extinct Seddon design. The design featuring a rear-mounted horizontal Gardner 6H LXB engine, a little bit like a Bristol RE. This chassis became the Ward Dalesman GRXI, and the GRXI stands for Gardner Rear and 11 in Roman numerals. Darlington placed an order for 6 to be delivered in 1983. However, the same old problem with production delays owing to Ward's cramped workshops and costs escalated upwards to the point where there was little or no profit for Ward's. Ward's had hoped that the order from Darlington would bring in extra business, but unfortunately this wasn't to be. And by 1984, Ward's had just literally run out of money and went into administration. Unfortunately, the company folded as no buyer could be found for such a tiny chassis builder with no future orders. Not put off by their failure, the Ward family joined forces with another well-respected coach operator, Abbeyways, and formed a new manufacturing company called AEC Limited. The initials stood for Albion Equipment Company, but this brought on some serious threats of legal action from Leyland Bus. So this was hastily changed to ACE Limited, and the company was launched with plans for 3 products: the Cheetah, the Cougar and the Puma, which were all virtually powered by Perkins engines. The Cougar was launched in October 1990, and all of these vehicles would be built at their factory in Huddersfield. And now we come back to People's Provincial, the story that was in our previous video. Now at the time, People's Provincial were running a large fleet of elderly Leyland Nationals, and the management were looking at a suitable bus to step up so they could replace the Nationals. The Ace Cougar ticked several boxes for them, as it featured Leyland National 2 style front lighting units and a front axle hub assembly based on Leyland designs. The Cougar was available in 2 lengths, 10.2 metres and 11.8 metres. And as I mentioned before, both were powered by the Perkins 6-cylinder phaser engines, which drove through an Allison 4-speed automatic gearbox. The first bus was fitted with a Wadham Stringer Portsdown bodywork, which seated 43 passengers and had room for 16 standing, and this was on a 10.2 metre chassis. And at the time of the launch, Wadham Stringer and Willowbrook, who were the other bodywork builder involved in the project, both expected to sell complete buses for around £60,000, and they were hoping to sell up to 30 buses a year, with Willowbrook hoping rather expectantly to sell 50. However, delays sorting out problems which had arisen through the chassis design dragged on. And also it could be argued that the Ace Cougar was born into the wrong time, as bus operators were more intent on buying second-hand vehicles than they were new vehicles. And despite ACE saying that the bus would be a rival for the Dennis Dart, by 1991 ACE had gone out of business. And the 2 Cougar chassis were to prove the only 2 built. The first one being delivered to People's Provincial as the predecessor of what was meant to be a large batch of Leyland National replacement buses, but that never happened. And that was registered H523CTR, whilst the second one, which received the Willowbrook Warrior bodywork, was registered J921TUK and was originally destined to have been a demonstrator for Ace and Willowbrook. However, it was later sold to an independent operator in the Midlands called Caves, and is notable for being one of the few new chassis to receive a Willowbrook Warrior bodywork. By far the majority of these bodies being built on elderly Leyland Leopard chassis. So what happened to these buses when they finished in their service life? Well, the Willowbrook Warrior bodied Acce Cougar was sold to an owner in Ireland when Caves ceased operating. And I'm not sure if it survives, if I'm honest. Whilst the Wadham Stringer People's Provincial bus is preserved by the Provincial Society. I will put a link up in the top right hand corner to their website. Please pay it a visit, and if you can support them in any way, then please do, because it all goes to a good cause. Well, I hope you enjoyed this look at this rather unique design of bus. If you did, please like and share this video, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you don't miss my future releases. Do you have any memories of the Acce Cougar or the Seddon Pennine or even the Ward Dalesman? Just comment below and let me know. I love reading your comments, and I always try and answer to everyone if I can. I think I might have spotted the Acce Cougar in service with Provincial in the 90s, but I could be wrong. Thank you so very much for watching. Bye for now.